Greetings. Greetings. Hello? Is y'all there? Or is it just me by myself? Got some new equipment I'm trying out. Got a new room I'm trying out. Got a new intro I'm trying out. So y'all let me know if you can hear me okay. Can I get a black fist? Because y'all know how me and technology be going. Greetings. Peace to you. One of your favorite shows. Thank you. You waving? Hey James. Thank you for that pumping iron. I appreciate that. I'm good. Okay. What's up, DC Black? This is LA Black. How you doing? Arya Stark, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, from Game of Thrones. Hey, David Silberg, how y'all doing? You here? You here being responsible instead of watching a different world? Okay. Yeah, very much so. Night. You lucky. I'm coming on at this time. This is early for me. Anyway, greetings. My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga, and you are tuned into Rootwork here on the Black Liberation Media platform. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Patreon, and also subscribe here so you'll get notifications whenever my show or any of the other shows on the Black Liberation Media platform are coming on. You will get a notification saying it's about to start. You don't want to miss it. Speaking of not wanting to miss, I think, I've said this before, I think y'all ought to press the like button now because you might get into the program and get so carried away later on you forget. But at any rate, like, share, subscribe. So coming to you, Black August 2024. And today we are going to take a look back at Ferguson 10 years later. Now, this is Black August again. As Mumi Abu Jamal said, it's a month of meaning, of repression and resistance, of righteous rebellion. August is a hot month. Yesterday, August 7th, was the anniversary of Jonathan Jackson's Marin County Courthouse rebellion, in which unfortunately he and brothers James McClain and William Christmas were murdered by San Quentin prison guards. Ruchell McGee was seriously wounded. He would eventually, of course, be Angela Davis's co-defendant going on trial for what happened at the Marin County Courthouse rebellion. Their cases would be severed. He would be found not guilty of murder in that rebellion, but guilty of kidnap, which is why, because he waged war against the state, they kept him in until last year, and he passed away earlier this winter or spring of 2024. So peace to the spirit of Ruchell McGee. Today is August 8th. It is the anniversary, August 8th, 1978, of the attack on the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where we get the MOVE 9 from. Those MOVE 9 members, all of those MOVE 9 members have been released now. I believe Merle Africa was the first MOVE member to pass away in prison before anyone came home. All of the MOVE 9 are now home. A couple of them actually have passed away since they've been released, but they are all free now. But they were all sentenced 30 years to life for the death of a cop back in 1978. And of course, Brother Mumi Abu Jamal, doing his relentless reporting about the repression against the MOVE organization, one of the reasons why he was targeted. August 8th is also the birth date of Dr. Mutulu Shakur, who passed away in July of last year, our righteous, revolutionary, freedom-fighting ancestor. Peace to his spirit. But I want to say about August 7th, though, it's an anniversary of sorts for me for a different reason. Yes, August 7th is the date in which, let me see here, is the date in which Jonathan Jackson carried out the Marin County Courthouse rebellion. But it is also, oh my goodness, y'all are doing too much. Y'all are doing too much. It is also the date in which August 7th, 2014, that Ted Wafer was found guilty in the second degree murder of Renisha McBride in Detroit, Michigan. And I'll say more about Renisha later on because our guest is here. And as usual, I am having technical difficulties. I was hoping to show a video real quick. Oh, there it is. So I will be able to show this video. So August 7th, 2014, Renisha McBride's killer, Ted Wafer, is convicted of her death. I had left Los Angeles to go and cover the trial of Ted Wafer. And I will put in the chat at some point a link to my reporting. Color of Change organization paid for me to report to their members, as well as Black Agenda Report. And I also have my reporting on that trial available on my Tumblr. But I was staying in Detroit a few days because I thought that they were going to sentence Wafer on that Monday. His sentencing ended up getting pushed back to September. But on that Saturday, August 9th, 2014, that's when Mike Brown was murdered in Ferguson, Missouri. And by Sunday, August 10th, the rebellion had started. It was in full swing. That Monday, I made the decision. I looked at the map. Oh, I can get to Ferguson, no problem. Shout out to Kerspletta Bear Books I believe they're in Montreal. They're in Canada. Sent me some funds to rent a car. I was able to get over to Ferguson, saw the National Guard, saw the masses of the people, met the sister we're going to be speaking with in a moment, B-Girl for Life. And we're going to be talking about Ferguson 10 years later. But here's the video I want to show you real quick. And I'm going fast because I kind of started late. I want to give you some background, but I know I'm not giving you the mostest background I could give. Hopefully you're already familiar with the murder of Mike Brown by Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri, and the rebellion that jumped off afterwards, one of the longest running rebellions that we have seen in a long time, which of course predates George Floyd and so many other rebellions. But here's the thing. We all know Mike Brown's murder was just so egregious. It was ridiculous, as well as other things that happened afterward. And B-Girl and I are going to be talking about that. But Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC did an analysis one evening of the New York Times reporting on the witnesses to Mike Brown's murder. And when I tell you it was masterful, I fell in love with Lawrence O'Donnell that night. I don't say that to too many people. I'm saying that to y'all because I think y'all understand where I'm coming from. I fell in love with that man that night. And prayerfully, there we go. I'm going to play. I had to search high and low for this video recording. And I want you to see
tonight's rewrite police reporting.
I want you to see the reason why I fell in him. It's part of The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, but this is called Rewrite. And again, he's analyzing the New York Times report, a New York Times report on witnesses to Mike Brown's murder. Let's see what he says. Please let me know if you can hear this also. Prayerfully.
In tonight's rewrite, police reporting. Good police reporters know when they're being used by the police. Bad police reporters also know when they're being used by the police, but they eagerly report whatever the police want them to report. Police reporting used to be a standard beat on American newspapers, but nothing is standard on American newspapers anymore as the death rattle of that industry gets louder and louder, and the budget cuts for reporting become more severe, and newspapers desperately cling to readership by expanding their coverage of celebrities and food. The New York Times today has six full pages devoted to food, everything you need to know about slow-cooked brisket, cooking sticks, and flatbreads. Nothing that has happened in Ferguson, Missouri can compete with food for coverage in the Times, which devoted about a page and a half to Ferguson today. That space was split between two stories, one which was essentially a profile of Attorney General Eric Holder, just pegged to his trip to Ferguson today, and the other is a terribly misleading, badly crafted story about witnesses to the killing of Michael Brown. That story does not include a single reference to the person who, by all public accounts so far, remains the star witness in this case. A better witness might emerge, but that hasn't happened yet. That star witness, Tiffany Mitchell, told her story on this program.
As I come around the corner, I hear tires squeaking, and as I get closer, I see Michael and the officer like wrestling through the window. Michael was pushing, like trying to get away from the officer, and the officer was trying to pull him in. As I see this, I pull out my phone because it just didn't look right. You never just see an officer and someone just wrestling through the window. So as I pull out my phone, the first shot was fired through the window, and I just like try to get out the way. I pull onto the parking lot right beside where the cop car was, and that's when Michael like kind of broke away and started running down the street. The officer gets out of his vehicle and he pursues him. As he's following him, he's shooting at him, and Michael's body jerks as if he was hit. And then he turns around and he put his hands up, and the officer continued to walk up on him and shoot him until he goes all the way down to the ground.
If you settled into your chair this morning to read the Times account of what witnesses have said, you would not have read one word of what you just heard, nor would you have read of the existence of Tiffany Mitchell. The first sentence of the Times story says, quote, "Witnesses have given investigators sharply conflicting accounts of the killing." The Times then goes on to present witness accounts that do not sharply conflict. The Times simply asserts in the first sentence that the accounts sharply conflict and then fails to demonstrate that. But that sentence is exactly what the police defenders of Officer Darren Wilson wanted the Times to print. That's what they need to get out there. Just the belief that there are conflicting accounts by witnesses of the killing, and that there is someone out there who is in conflict with Tiffany Mitchell's testimony. The Times makes it very plain that the idea of conflicting witnesses comes from law enforcement sources. And in a profound and uncharacteristic flash of irresponsibility, the Times fails to produce a single witness who sharply conflicts with any other witness in the article. In the Times article, Freeman Bosley, the lawyer for Dorian Johnson, who was walking with Michael Brown, tells his client's story for him. Mr. Bosley says Dorian Johnson has been interviewed by the FBI in St. Louis County for nearly 4 hours. He says that Dorian Johnson admitted that he and Michael Brown had stolen cigarillos from the store before the shooting. The Times says this about how the action started on the street. Quote, "Contrary to what several witnesses have told law enforcement officials," Mr. Bosley said that the officer then reached out of the window with his left hand and grabbed Mr. Brown by the throat. The Times begins that by saying, contrary to what several witnesses have told law enforcement officials, but then the Times never tells you what those witnesses actually told the law enforcement officials. Where does the contrary come from? Do those witnesses disagree that the officer reached out of the window at all, or do they disagree that the officer grabbed Michael Brown by the throat? Do some of them say he grabbed Michael Brown by the shoulder near the throat, or by the arm, or do some of them say he didn't grab Michael Brown at all? We have no idea. We are not allowed to judge whether there is a sharp disagreement there. The Times reporters who worked on this story simply accepted what law enforcement told them, and they printed it. The Times reporters quote only two witnesses directly: Michael Brady, who has also been interviewed by CNN, and James McKnight, and not one word that those two witnesses say in the Times article sharply conflicts with each other or with anything Tiffany Mitchell said. In fact, nothing they say conflicts in any way, not sharply, not slightly, not in any way. Then there is the most egregious passage in the New York Times article. Officer Darren Wilson's lawyer could not have written it better. It begins with what Michael Brady says he saw. Quote, he said he did see a police officer get out of the patrol car and start walking briskly while firing on Mr. Brown as he fled. What happened next could be what the case turns on. What happened next could be what the case turns on. There's the New York Times dismissing the first shots that the officer fired after getting out of the car as Michael Brown fled. That doesn't matter in this New York Times account. Law enforcement sources that the Times reporters were working with tricked them into thinking that what happens after that, what happens next, is what the case turns on, not realizing that the shots fired while Michael Brown is fleeing, those shots, that is an illegal use of deadly force. That is a crime. The police officer had no legal right to shoot at Michael Brown while he was fleeing. The Times reporters don't know that. They think it's all about what happened next. And what happens next in the Times article is that the article gets much, much worse. Quote, what happened next could be what the case turns on. Several witnesses have told investigators that Mr. Brown stopped and turned around with his arms up. According to his account to the Ferguson police, Officer Wilson said that Mr. Brown had lowered his arms and moved toward him. Law enforcement officials said, fearing that the teenager was going to attack him, the officer decided to use deadly force. The Times doesn't seem to realize that the officer already decided to use deadly force when he fired the first shots. Then comes the single worst line in the New York Times article. Some witnesses have backed up that account. That's it. A simple declarative sentence. Some witnesses have backed up that account, and the New York Times does not produce or even refer to a single witness who backs up that account, not one. It just takes a leak from the police and prints it as a fact, and it is used as a fact in the Times to back up a very vague police description of what happened. The Times says, quote, Officer Wilson said that Mr. Brown had lowered his arms and moved toward him, law enforcement officials said. What does that mean? What does move toward him mean? A half step while falling from the bullets that Officer Wilson has already fired into Michael Brown? Does it mean one full step? Does it mean two steps? The New York Times never tells you that. The New York Times doesn't know. Moved toward him is all the clarity that you get from the New York Times in-depth reporting on this. This on the point that the Times wrongly believes the case turns on. That's all you get on that point. The New York Times interviewed Michael Brady. Why didn't they quote him on how Michael Brown moved toward the officer? Listen to this description Michael Brady gave tonight about how Michael Brown moved toward the officer.
By the time I gets outside, he's already turned around, facing the officer. He's balled up. He have his arms like under his stomach, and he was like halfway down, like he was going down. Mm-hmm. And the officer lets out about 3 or 4 shots at him. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, just like the body, I took a few pictures in the video, but how his body is on the ground, just like with his arms tucked in. Mm-hmm. that's how he got shot or whatever. But like I said, before he went down, he was already like this, and he took like 1 or 2 steps going towards the officer, and he, like I said, let go about 3 or 4 more shots at him.
So that's what Michael Brady means by moving toward the officer. Michael Brown stumbling 2 steps forward as he's going down from the bullets that are already in his body. And as he continues to go down, the officer keeps firing. And as we know from preliminary autopsy results, one of the bullets that killed Michael Brown went through the top of his skull, an objective scientific finding that is completely consistent with what Michael Brady just described. The New York Times normally uses the best reporting standards of any news organization in the country. I have never seen the New York Times used by police this way. The New York Times is definitely going to have better days covering this story. I'm sure they will do more great work on this story, but they didn't do that today. Like I said, there are good police reporters and bad police reporters. And we could really use more good police reporters right now.
So that is why I fell in love with Lawrence O'Donnell. And for whatever reason, now I can't give her the screen. But hey, you know how I do. Let me go on and bring sister girl up in here. Let's see what we can do what we can do up here. Where you at? There you go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, StreamYard, for helping out a sister. So that's why, as I was saying, you kind of dark, sis. Is there a way we can lighten up your face?
It's where I am. This is probably the brightest spot.
Maybe if you turn everything around, you think?
I don't know. See, well, maybe that. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Okay. So, as I was saying, I just thought that was masterful, and I've been in love with Lawrence O'Donnell ever since. Let me stop lying. I fell in love, and I ain't watched him anymore. But at any rate, the point being, just like James said, he picked the New York Times apart, and that's the kind of journalism that is needed. That's the kind of media that is needed, that critical dissection and analysis of different events, phenomena, concepts, etc. And so that's one of the things that we hope to do here on Black Liberation Media. But as I said, I was in Ferguson, and one of the first person I met when I was there, I think we hooked up via Facebook first, and that's how I knew that you were in St. Louis. B-Girl for Life is what she's popularly known as, but she goes by the name of Nyota Uhura. Is it Uhuru or Uhura?
Bruh. Bruh.
Just like the Star Trek.
Yes.
Nyota Uhura. Thank you so much for being on Rootwork tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So it's 10 years later. It's been 10 whole years since
10
we
years.
was in that church in Ferguson, since the police were jamming frequencies and people couldn't use internet to get out, much of the internet to get out, since they were using those, what was that thing that they called it? It was like a sound cannon or some type of noise thing.
I can't think of the name, but yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot going
on. Wiping hard drives.
And the police report, the masses were clamoring for the police report of Michael Brown's shooting. They finally released it after 10 days, and it was blank. And I had never seen anything like that before in my life. And you told me, hold on to your seat. It's a lot going on down here you ain't never seen before in your life. You were the one that told me. Still to this day, you were one of the first ones to talk about the fact that Ferguson is like a cash cow in terms of ticketing,
Yes.
ticketing and arrests for
Well,
the
not
police
just
department.
not just Ferguson, all of St. Louis County, which is
Mhm.
broken up into like 91 municipalities. So
Mm.
each one of those, you know, pretty much had their own police forces out
Mhm.
writing tickets.
Mhm.
So let's just say, for example, you're on West Florissant, but you start out on North Florissant in the city. You
Mhm.
could get stopped by the city police, and then Jenny's police, and then Ferguson police, and then Florissant police. I mean, just driving on the same road for the same offense or for no offense at all.
And St. Louis County is not that large.
It's not that large. St. Louis is, it's, I think, what they call an independent city, where the city doesn't reside in the county. So you have St. Louis City and you have St. Louis County. St.
Mhm.
Louis City has its own mayor, police chief, district attorney, and the same is true for St. Louis County. So yeah, it's a lot of government when you combine, you know, all the little municipalities, all the little fiefdoms, you know, they all have their governments too.
And they're all ripping Black people left and right, ripping them off left
Yes.
and right, leaving them dry.
I
Now,
mean, where we are now is like, you know, when they talk about bleeding the bone dry, well, the bone is dry. There's nothing left. There is nothing left.
Mhm.
So
You know,
that's where we are.
I don't even know where to start. I guess we could. I don't even know where to. Long range acoustic device. Thank you, Law Brand. That's what it was. LRAD. I was staying with folks. They who came home after a protest, and they told me their ears were still bothering them from the long range acoustic device that had been turned on them by the Ferguson police. I don't know where to start. Maybe we should start with most recent and work our way back. Corey Bush just lost to Wesley Bell. Why
Yeah,
don't
I
you let
think
us
that
know
would be
who Wesley Bell is?
okay. We're going to start with the end of the story because I
Okay.
think right now, if someone were to write a book, that would be the end of the story.
Okay.
And basically, what it would be is Corey Bush, you know, Ferguson protester goes to Congress and ultimately loses her seat against Wesley Bell, the county prosecutor that took over for Bob McCullough, that did not reopen the investigation into the murder of Mike Brown. Now, how is that for irony?
Wesley did not reopen it.
Yeah, and that now he's taking Corey Bush's seat.
Mm-hmm. Now, the prosecutor who he unseated,
Bob McCullough.
This is the one who convened the grand jury on
Correct.
Ferguson on the murder, correct? And this is the one who, with no sense of shame whatsoever, said, yes, we have someone testifying who's a liar. Is my memory serving me correctly?
Pretty much. I mean, he never called, and I noticed when I was watching the Lawrence O'Donnell piece, they never discussed the two construction workers, the two white construction workers that were there, who actually put their hands up and said to Darren Wilson, why did you shoot him? You know, they were signaling, you know, his hands were up. And nobody talks about them.
Yeah.
They didn't testify to the grand jury.
Somebody's video,
that's still on CNN. It's still on CNN. You can look it up. So there's a lot. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm conflicted right now. I feel so many different things because I feel like we did a giant 360 and that we're right back where we started. You know, but I take that back, only in a deeper hole. The hole is much, much deeper now, you know, and it still feels like, I mean, things could get to popping here at any time. But this time, there's not going to be any way to stop it.
Now, what does that mean? There's not going to be any way to stop it.
I mean, it just means, you know, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when it happens. It's going to go its full course. I mean, you're not going to be able to stop it. You're not going to be able to close that Pandora's box. We are sitting on a power keg. We're in the same situation we were in before, but it's worse because now people know. Now there is no trust at all. None. Not in government, not in the movement, not with the clergy, not with the journalists. Earlier today, I was watching News Channel 4, and they had a whole special on Ferguson. And the first thing that stuck out to me is, wow, all these white journalists, are telling our story. People who watched from a distance and people who benefited, but none of the people that made the sacrifice.
Speaking of sacrifice, so the graphic I used, that was of, I believe, Edward Carter. He was throwing, that was an iconic photo. They said he was picked up a tear gas canister and threw it back. So many folks that were on the front line of Ferguson activism, protesting.
Just let me say R.I.P. Skeeter. He's no longer with us.
No longer with us. Talk about that for folks.
His death is not another one of those suspicious deaths. I mean, it wasn't like Darren, found shot and set on fire in his truck.
Darren Seals.
But they did say he committed suicide sitting in a car with 2 other people. That's the story.
Edward, there's Darren Seals. Bassem Masri, a Palestinian American brother who was out in the police face and also reporting from Ferguson. He ended up passing away also.
They said they found him on the bus. That's it.
That's all they said.
That's it, pretty much.
All right, so like I said, I don't know where to start, but you've been there. You have been vocal and critical from the beginning. I wanted you to come on tonight to share with the BLM Rootwork audience your criticisms of that time period and how they are still relevant today.
Well, my main criticism was the way they came. They came as friends, like we're here to help. We're here to uplift.
Well, who is they? Be specific.
I mean, Patrice Cullors, what's the brother from Dream Defenders? Philip Agnew, Rosa Clemente, Talib Kweli. All these different people came, for the purpose of helping us, but they were really helping themselves, because they already had another agenda. They just needed a movement to, kick it off. And they tried before in Florida with Trayvon Martin, but they were unsuccessful there. So when Mike Brown got killed here, it was just the perfect situation for them to come in. And, we were all out there and, we really felt like, wow, people are coming, people wanted to take a stand. We had like a, how can I say this? A feeling of just openness, genuineness, you know what I'm saying? A feeling of community. If we could just bring all these different forces together, there were all types of people out. It wasn't just Black or white. Everyone came together in a way that I never thought possible in St. Louis. So that was the first thing. And then we just started noticing things like certain voices would be elevated, amplified, while other voices were diminished. My voice was one of those very early on, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just figured, everybody would get in where they fit in. The problem was, when you turn on the news and you see that these people who are not from here, who never led a protest, never came out and marched with us, are on CNN, MSNBC, they're everywhere telling our story and saying that they led the movement, and it was like, what? Everybody was like, okay, who are these people? Because you can go back and check anyone. I would like everyone to go back and check. and show me where Black Lives Matter or any of these people, D-Ray included, Sean King, show me where they were there.
Yeah.
They found out about us the same way everybody else did on the news. And they came and they had an agenda. And, you know, well, like I said, they were Trojan horses. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like a Trojan horse. You know, and they came in and they just ripped our movement from up under us, you know, like pulling the rug.
So I remember you saying these things, especially about BLM at that time. It was maybe a year or so that BLM had been on the scene. And I had trouble believing it at first because I was eyewitness to BLM here in Los Angeles. So I didn't say a lot. Like, I don't know that don't sound right. Like, what's going on? What's happening? And over the you've been consistent. You and Darren Seals maintained your criticism. I really wasn't hearing it. And lo and behold, you know, the discombobulation.
I'm gonna tell you when the bottom fell out. The bottom fell out when I found the source of the money coming into Ferguson, millions of dollars. You know, when everyone was saying, "Oh no, there's no money. We're all just doing this." You know, there were millions of dollars coming in. You know, to Black Lives Matter as well as Hands Up United here. You know, they were like a spinoff of Black Lives Matter. You know, that was specifically for Ferguson. Yeah, and I found out, you know, because I was the first person to really like investigate the money, you know, because I just knew there had to be money. There were people who, I mean, during the early days of the protest, they could barely afford to eat. They didn't have gas money. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you're seeing them in Palestine. You're seeing them in New York. You're seeing them all over. And how does this happen? Who's coordinating all of this? Why are certain people, you know, elevated and other people, you know, are diminished? You know, so that was part of it. You know, I think where people really started to think that I was, you know, losing it, like I was crazy, is when I started talking about the social media platforms and how I was being shadow banned. And this is before shadow ban even had a word. You know, we even had a word for it. I just knew that none of my stuff was resonating. I mean, people were coming because of word of mouth, you know, but I think I had one thing really, really go viral on Twitter, and they shut me down quickly. Very quickly. And so when I was telling people that, you know, Twitter, Facebook, you know, I was telling them my posts weren't going out. But see, what a lot of people didn't realize at that time is that Jack Dorsey, who owned Twitter, is from St. Louis. Jack Dorsey, you know, him and D-Ray were pretty tight, you know, and he was from St. Louis. So it's not hard to imagine. You know what I'm saying? Because I was one of the most outspoken voices that they knew that I was very critical of everything.
So millions of dollars coming in, indigenous grassroots voices being silenced. And where does that lead? What has been the result of that? What is it like in Ferguson, St. Louis today in terms of grassroots organizing?
It's fractured. I mean, there are still people, you know, doing their own thing. There's no collectiveness anymore because so many people were bamboozled. They were hoodwinked. You know, they may have had good intentions, you know, but even good intentions come with consequences. They say the road to hell is paved in good, you know, intentions. It's very shattered. You know, like tomorrow is the 10th year anniversary, and I don't even know what to expect. You know, I launched handsupdon'tshoot.com 10 years ago so that we could tell our own story, you know, and I put a lot of work into it, you know, but it came at a heavy price. It came at a very high price. You know, I had my house broken into. I had my bedroom door kicked off the hinges. You know, I've had tablets, laptops stolen, you know, hard drives wiped. And just the cost, just mentally, physically, you know, because there was a time I was on the run. You know, I was on the low.
Yeah.
You know, as a matter of fact, that was one of the last conversations I had with Darren Seals, you know, on that Saturday before that Labor Day. I spoke with him and, you know, I was just telling him because at that point, he took the information that I found and he went out there and he called everybody out. Okay. He called everybody out, you know, and I remember telling him that, you know, I just felt bad about everything. I really felt bad. And I felt like something was going to happen to the point where I didn't feel safe in St. Louis. I left, you know, and I called him and I was telling him like, man, I don't feel good about this because it just seemed like the calm before the storm, you know. I was just waiting for that reaction. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I didn't want to stick around to find out. And I remember Darren telling me, you know, hey sis, I got your back, you know. And that was one of the last conversations we had, you know, and he wanted to go on Irritated Genie show to talk. He actually saw me on another show, on another podcast, and wanted me to appear with Darren on his show. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the things I was waiting for, you know, Darren to call me to get back at me on Monday morning about, you know. So I'm sitting there doing my post like I normally do, you know, thinking any minute he's going to hit me up and let me know whether or not, you know, the show was a go or not. And the call never came, you know, and in the middle of me doing my post, someone came and commented, this young sister came and commented, they killed Darren last night. And I see this, you know, as a comment, I'm thinking they're talking about Darren Wilson, you know? So I'm like, what? And she said they killed Darren Seals. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. You know, and at that point, I mean, I was already out of town, you know, and that just really, really, you know, made me just stay low, stay underground, get lost. You know what I'm saying? There was a time my family didn't even know where I was. You know, there was a time no one knew, you know, maybe a handful of people, because one of the last conversations Darren and I had was him telling me there were two people in the movement they wanted dead, him and me. And so, like I said, my house got broken into, my bedroom door got kicked off the hinges. You know, I've had laptops stolen, you know, all kinds of things happen. And people don't know the stress that all of this takes, just the stress on your body. You know, I feel like I've done like 2 or 3 tours in the military. Like I have the scars to show for it. And, you know, I'm here now, you know, but I still don't ever feel safe here. I don't feel safe here at all. Because there's a lot that hasn't been said. And there's a lot that, you know, people don't want to come out. I think it will eventually, you know, because I'm not the only one that knows. And at this point in time, I'm not the only one that speaks out, you know, but it's for other people, you know, to tell their story, you know, to be held, to hold themselves accountable for the roles they played.
I'm thinking of all the personalities that I saw in the media as I was watching everything unfold while I was there, and after I left and came back to LA, still watching what was going on. And I feel like I want to throw a name out at you for
Wow.
you to get that analysis. But,
Who?
well, Reverend Sekou.
What's the first word that comes to mind when you say him? I mean, I'm not going to say the very first thing that comes to mind, but I will say, he was in it for what he could get out of it, but he wasn't the only one.
He wasn't the only one.
He wasn't the only one. No, he was one of many.
So
I mean, what did he do? Did he? I think he recorded a CD.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't that launch his music career?
It is, when you talk about layers,
Yes.
to the Ferguson, Mike Brown story, it's so many. I honestly don't know where to begin. It's just so much that I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Whether it was McCullough, the DA, Wesley Bell, who took his place, the police
and who
department,
just took Cori Bush's place. Remember that?
Yes. With the help of APAC money.
Yes, yes.
I mean, DeRay. It's just I don't know. That's why I asked you to come on the show. I don't know where to begin.
I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because none of the people, you know what I'm saying, are active here. They have moved on to bigger and better things, and they left everything. You know, we're the ones that have to clean up the mess. We're the ones that have to pick up the pieces.
They've moved on to bigger and better things, but what's happening with the police departments there in St. Louis and Ferguson?
Well, we got all black everything. We got black girl magic, and everything is worse. Everything is worse.
I see a question over here in the chat.
Okay.
We got a pretty active chat over here at Black Liberation Media. Sounds of Saint elsewhere has asked, how should the money that went towards the movement in Ferguson have been used?
To create an alternative, you know, something that we control that was completely independent of the Democrat Party and the nonprofit industrial complex. Something that was truly grassroots.
Well, see, that's why, again, so another name comes to mind.
Okay.
There's the organization of OBS, the Organization of Black Struggle. They've been in St. Louis for decades.
Yes. They've been in St. Louis for decades, and not just them, the Urban League, Better Family Life, you know, these organizations.
They don't tout themselves as, OBS does not see themselves as the Urban League. Their name is the Organization for Black Struggle.
Well, they can see themselves. Aren't we in the time where you can identify however you want? They can see themselves as whatever. But when it comes to, you know, the people out here doing the work on the grounds, on the front lines, them, the Urban League, Better Family Life, you know, together these organizations have gotten millions, I mean millions of dollars. And you can't look at anything concrete that they've done. Like what have they changed? You can't point to anything tangible. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We are in the same position. Actually, it's even worse.
Wasn't the police chief forced to resign in Ferguson?
Well, Ferguson has probably had 5 or 6 police chiefs by now. All black. They'll come, they'll stay a hot minute, and then they're up. Because it's going to take a lot to change the region. St. Louis doesn't want to change. That's the main reason why there hasn't been changed. You know, people will stunt, they will pontificate, they will do all of that, but they really, truly, deep down, don't want to change. They don't. We have Black people who are in position and they don't want any change because they're good, they're comfortable, they're overseers on the plantation. They like it. You know, so yes, when they come out to us, of course, they're going to talk that good talk, tell us what we want to hear. You know, but when they go back behind closed doors, they bend the knee.
Interesting choice of words.
I mean, look at Cori Bush. Cori Bush came out of our movement. I protested with Cori Bush. I know Cori Bush. You know, she and I used to talk all the time. We protested together, you know, and when she ran, you know, I had people, you know, hitting me up. They wanted to know my take on it. And I didn't tell anyone, you know, what I was feeling at the time. I just pretty much told them, you know, wait and see, because people will always show you know what I'm saying, who they are. You know, she went and she forgot, you know, why she went. She forgot why she was voted in and who she was voted in to represent. And that only lasts so long. I mean, now, okay, in the old days, you look at someone like Lacey Clay, you know, yeah, they'll be in there 20, you know, plus years. But now you're lucky if you get 2 terms. And Wesley Bell will be lucky if he gets 1. Yeah. And the sad part is ultimately Wesley Bell is going to be replaced by someone white. And just like that, you know, white progressives or even establishment Democrats will have taken back control of a historically Black seat that was won by Bill Clay. And, you know, if we had to choose between Lacey Clay or Wesley Bell, I would pick Lacey Clay. At least he has seniority. Bell's not going to get anything accomplished.
Yeah, he just got there. And shaky how he got there.
Not if you know him. Not if you know him.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm not from there. So that was part of the course. Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to beat this. What does that say? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So you're saying it wasn't necessarily shaky. That's part of the course for Wesley. If you
know Wesley Bell, I mean, come on, he ran interference for the DOJ when he was elected to the Ferguson City Council. He engaged in the same type of behavior in Velda City where he was a judge. He ran against Bob McCullough and got in and became a chocolate Bob McCullough. He told Cori Bush that he wasn't going to run against her. He gave her his word. She actually, I think, posted the audio. You know, and it clicked to me, you know, when the audio was released, you know, when I heard about it, because it's like, I always wondered why she didn't call him out, you know, to reopen the investigation into the murder of Mike Brown. So I guess they had some type of, you know, deal. And I think most of Black leadership here, I think that's how they operate. What does that say? I'm trying to read it.
Elsewhere asked, what leadership structures do you think should have been built to enable the local residents to retain control of the direction and funding of the movement?
Media, social media, 2 things that I started. I mean, that very week Mike Brown was killed. You know, I did it with the help of small donations, and I kept it going, you know, myself, because I knew regardless of what happened, we were going to have a communication mechanism as well as a news mechanism, you know, that we could not rely on them, you know, to tell us, you know, and, you know, at the beginning, people were, let's do it. But when it really came down to it and people realized they were going to have to go against people, you know, that were, you know, passing out dollars, you know, no one wanted to be a part of it. Nobody wanted to be left out. You got to realize a lot of money was coming through here, a lot of money. with no accountability, no metrics, no accountability, no nothing.
Slauson Girl wants to know what happened to Hands Up, Don't Shoot organization from out that way.
Well, Hands Up United,
Are they still in existence?
girl, they may on paper be in existence, you know, but being active, no. I mean, even Antonio French had I Heart STL, and they burnt that down.
I Heart St. Louis.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So none of these organizations, you'll see, like, I rarely even see OBS. Mostly now it's Better Family Life and the Urban League, Cure Violence for a minute. They spent like millions and millions of dollars on cure violence to cure the violence, and they did absolutely nothing but take the money. That's always what happens.
I mean,
it's man, I don't feel anything right now. I feel numb, you know, because I've been through all of this. And like I said, I feel like I've done a huge 360 and I'm right back where I started, you know, and I know that, girl, given a matter of time, you know, it took a long time to unseat Kim Gardner, who was the first Soros prosecutor here. You know, she went after Eric Greitens, who was the governor. And when she got here, I guess she single-handedly torpedoed St. Louis's justice system. She brought it to a screeching halt. There was no justice, not for just victims, for defendants. It just came to a screeching halt. We're still going through that right now.
What say the name again? Who are you talking about?
Kim Gardner.
Oh yes, I remember Kim Gardner.
Kim Gardner, yes.
The one in it's a Kim Worthy in Detroit. Okay.
Yeah, and there's Kim Fox in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these Kims.
So
anyway.
We went through the sister girl prosecutors and DAs, mayors. We've gone through it all.
More Black Girl Magic.
Black Girl Magic in St. Louis was Kim Gardner, Cori Bush, and Tashara Jones. Kim Gardner is gone. Cori Bush she has one foot out the door, and Tashara is the last one standing.
And what is her position?
Mayor.
Oh, the mayor. Okay.
Mayor of St. Louis, yes.
So, I mean, I can't even say, what do you want people? Well, when I first got there, we were asking you, what is it that you want people to know? And you were saying, let people know what's going on in St. Louis in terms of the police, in terms of the structure of the city. Again, talking about the predatory policies, ticketing, using that as a source of revenue, ticketing all the Black residents. That was in 2014. What do you want people to know right now today?
What I want them to know today is study Ferguson and learn from our mistakes. Because this still isn't over. It's not over. And wherever, you know, the next uprising is, you know, we can't keep starting back at square one. We'll never get there. We have to learn, like, from our mistakes. I mean, we may not have created the blueprint that we wanted to, but we definitely created the one of what not to do.
So you talked about the Democrats for a moment. What about George Soros? George Soros's name has come up in so many different corners of the U.S. in the last few years.
Yes.
regarding in relationship to various rebellions?
I was probably the first to speak about him. I found out about him early on. Actually, within 4 months, Mike Brown was killed in what, August, January.
Mm-hmm.
By January, I found out Soros was funding different factions within Ferguson, you know, and I put the information out. And of course, I got attacked. You know, so many people, when they say dogs holler, hit dogs holler. They came. They were on my post. Oh, sis, no one's getting money. Even though, I mean, here it is. They have dollar amounts. They have names. They have organizations. And this came from George Soros's own director of Open Society Foundations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, George Soros, I would suggest really, if anyone wants to know about him, he did an interview with 60 Minutes that's on YouTube. Go check it out. The best way I can describe him is he's a Jew that sold out Jews during the Holocaust. And he said that if he didn't, somebody else would. So that's the mentality. And I always wanted, I guess the question I always ask people is, why do you think a man who sold his own out during the Holocaust would do anything for us that would uplift us, you know?
Mm.
But people, they want to believe so bad. They do. And that's what always gets us, you know, we always want to believe. We always see the best in people, even the ones that don't see the best in us.
Even when the red flag is
Yes.
flapping in the wind.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with Fumbles, but Fumbles asked a question. What have you learned from what you think was the biggest mistake made in Ferguson?
Not keeping it local, not keeping it grassroots, keeping the outsiders at, you know, an arm's distance, letting them, you know, the ones that were genuine about helping, you know, help, of course, because when you're in that situation, I mean, when you go to war, you got to go to war with whoever, you know, you got. But I definitely would have kept it local. I would not have put outsiders in any type of position where they could take and run with the movement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it was truly a grassroots movement. It really was. And now you look at how it's evolved. I mean, 10 years later, come on, now it's Antifa. You know, we went from hands up, don't shoot to Antifa. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody talks about nonprofit reform. They talk about all these other reforms, but they don't talk about that.
Mm-hmm. The nonprofit industrial complex.
Yes,
That's
nobody talks about reforming that.
Well, what kind of reform is needed? Can it be reformed?
I don't think that could be reformed because it's so corrupt.
Mm.
And really, you're always going to have people that are going to sell out for the money or for whatever it is. You're always going to have sellouts.
Mm.
There have always been sellouts, always.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to stop that. But what you can do is really look at the people, you know, that you are propping up, that you are having speak for you, that you're having speaking for, you know, the moment, the movement.
Hmm.
As they say,
Antifa definitely co-opts Black movements.
Yeah, they do. I remember when I first heard Cori Bush talk about Antifa, I was like, wow, you know, for real. Wow, that's all I could say.
Hmm.
What is that?
I've heard nonprofit folks claim they made 2020 happen too. Yeah, the George Floyds.
Oh yeah,
George Floyd.
yes, lots of money in it. You know what's interesting to me out of all of this is they needed Black people out in the streets, you know, to protest so that they could have a movement to co-op. Now they don't even need Black people anymore. They're just out there.
Mm-hmm.
But what about this? What if instead of being co-opted, we were successful in getting Darren Wilson arrested? What happens then? See, because they needed us to jump off all this other stuff. So if we weren't going to get justice, Obama's DOJ was not going to give us justice. No one was going to get justice, because with each defeat that we suffered, it angered people and it made more people come out in the streets and protest. That's what they needed. So they were never going to give us justice. They were just going to get us to a point where they wanted to get us, and then they were going to co-opt it all, which is exactly what they did.
Well, there's got to be a way that can be fought and stopped in the future. I mean, this is one of the lessons we learn, right? We see what they're going. This is their playbook. This is what they always come with.
We know the playbook. I mean, but you're going to have to, like, you got to put the right people in position. And that's easier said than done, because there are going to be people that talk a good game. And then there are going to be people who are totally down for it. We have to learn to distinguish between the two, because all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And they're going to send Trojan horses.
My concern is with the quote unquote the black left. It's like, because we say we're for quote unquote revolution, this cannot be reformed, so we don't get involved in the electoral arena. But this is where everything is happening, and this is how we get tooken. But we weren't there in the first place because we're too revolutionary, and that's reform. It's like a loop.
What it is we have to learn to fight on many different fronts. And certain people excel at certain things, and the things that people excel in, we need to open those lanes for them. I'll give you an example. You got, people who are talking about lineage. You have people that are talking about building systems and institutions such as myself. People like you, that are journalists. I'm gonna tell you something that's really funny that I saw on Twitter. I can't remember who made this post, but it was someone on the Black left, in academia, I believe, who was talking about how we need to have a revolution. And I'm like, brother, where have you been? You know what I'm saying? Where have you been? It's just crazy, because a lot of people they're just where they are. I don't know if they think that we're all going to get a bat signal, and then everybody's going to, doesn't happen like that. Yeah, it doesn't happen like that.
Formation. Let me ask you this. Is there an archive of the work that you produced during Ferguson somewhere out here on the web for folks?
Yeah, it's just on handsupdon'tshoot.com. And oh my God, I have to get back to that. For the 10-year, I'm going to put it all together. I mean, I have stuff on there that goes back, way back. And then, of course, my Facebook, the Hands Up Don't Shoot page on Facebook. So yeah, now I finally feel like, I can tell the story, with an ending, because I mean, so many people wrote books. There were people writing books like within the first year. Captain Ron Johnson wrote a book. I'm like, really? And I kept telling people, this story isn't over. This story isn't over.
Johnson, that's what was he? Was he the trooper?
He was a state trooper that they brought in. Yeah.
Went out and marched with them one night. Is that the one he went out and marched with the people in his uniform?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a photo of me. There was a photo of me talking to him. I saw him on West Florissant, and I wanted a few minutes of his time. And he was like, come on with me. I'm getting ready to do a press conference. And so I go with him as a, to the press conference, and there's everybody there from the CNN, the AP, Channel 5, everybody's there, and I'm right there, right next to him with my tablet, and I'm just giving him the business, because I'm out there. Like these other people, they're not out there 24/7. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what to ask. They're clueless, and I got on his head so much that he, turned away from me to take another question. And then he had to turn back around to address what I was talking about, to address the question I asked him. I saw that photo, like were you the one who sent me the article that was in?
Child,
I think you were the one who sent me the article. You're the one that took the photo of me with Patrice the day they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said handsupunited.com?
No. Handsupdon'tshoot.com. Handsupdon'tshoot.com was going to be the media platform. Hands Up United was all of the local nonprofits under OBS. So it's two different things.
Okay, my bad.
The handsupdon'tshoot.com, Hands Up Don't Shoot radio is a radio station that is on Alexa. It's you can go to handsupdon'tshoot.com/radio. You can just Google it, and
there's the photo. There it is right there. There's the photo right there.
Yeah, there's the photo right there. Yeah, that's it. My friend Terry is the one who took that photo right there.
Of
I was putting it all together. Yeah. He just arrived to St. Louis, saw him standing there with the photo, with holding that, cardboard, and he jumped out and took that picture.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I got to get back to that.
With DeRay and the blue vest.
Oh, yeah, I had to put the blue vest. Yes, but if you click on radio, it should take you to the station, and a lot of artists, I don't think anyone knows this, a lot of artists made music, songs that were inspired by Ferguson, by Mike Brown, by Darren Seals, just everything. That photo right there, I took of Dead Prez when they came. That was hip hop at Foo Bar.
There's him.
There's the photo of me, Captain Ron. Yeah, that's me. I was right there. Guerrilla Media.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my war scars.
All right, so this is where folks, BLMers, chat folks, you can find the archive of B Girls for Life's coverage.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Not just mine. There are other people, who contributed interviews. I'm gonna try to do. Well, actually, I'm trying to do some follow-up interviews with people now, like people I interviewed back then, and just what have they learned, because all of us have gone through things. Like since then, all of us, and people are weary, people are tired, but you don't get to rest because this fight is not over. Yeah,
I hear you.
This chapter may be over, but the fight is not over.
Most definitely. I'm so glad this exists. I'm all about documenting and making it. We have, as you said,
you did some things,
control our own narrative, but document our work.
I would like to invite anyone to contribute. Anyone who was at Ferguson, or if you were in New York, Eric Garner, Ohio with Tamir Rice, tell your story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tell your story. As a matter of fact, you see that logo with Mike Brown, the badge?
Yeah.
Russell George made that. He makes those, and it's so sad for everyone.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So I would like to incorporate, a section just for everyone, where we tell our story. And I don't censor, I don't edit or anything like that. Like how you give it to me is how I put it out. And I would really, really love for people to contribute.
Okay, but absolutely check the archives that B Girl has been spearheading not all you, but you put it into play since at least 2014 regarding the hijacking of Ferguson and Mike Brown's murder. It was another thing I was going to ask you. I forgot what it was. But if there are any more questions from BLM folks in the chat, get them in now, because you know Mr. Arthritis is knocking on the door. Mr. Author is knocking at the door. So if you got a question for B Girl for Life, Nyota Uhura, Ferguson activist, grassroots journalist, media maker, on the scene and been on the case since that time. I was going to ask you something else, and I can't remember what it was. I got to start writing down stuff. I hate when that happens. I'm at that age. But where you are you traveling right now, sis?
Well, right now I'm in St. Louis, but I'm going to be traveling soon.
Okay.
Yes, it's not the same here anymore. It's just not. So many people have fled. St. Louis has lost a lot of people have just left. Population decrease. I mean, so many people. Bruce Franks, that's another footnote. Do you remember Bruce Franks?
No.
He was from the movement. He ran for office and he became a state rep who resigned in scandal. It was, girl, I tried to tell people, you know what I'm saying? Like when you get in bed with these Democrats, you know what I'm saying? It only, I mean, Cori Bush, not only did she lose, she's under investigation. You know, Bruce Franks resigned in scandal and then went off the grid. He said he was leaving St. Louis for his mental health. And then just like a week or so ago, you know, I got someone sent me a news article about him possibly facing felonies in Arizona for like some movement work he was doing out there. And it's like, wow, man.
I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess the only success story out of this is Patrice has 8 mansions.
8 mansions?
Yeah, I think it's 8.
Okay,
it's 5 or it's 8. She found a lot of properties.
I didn't know it was 8.
I know she got one in Canada, one in, I think it's 5 or 8. I have to go look because I reposted whatever number it was. I reposted that just today. I think yesterday it came up in one of my memories. Let me go look and see what it is.
I missed that.
You missed the mansions?
Well, I didn't know it was 8 of them. No, I mean, I missed your post. I missed your most recent.
I'm gonna tell you what it was. Oh, let me see.
I can't remember what that was. I was going to ask you, so I am not going to try.
You know, as soon as we finish this, you're going to remember.
Yeah. Hands up, don't shoot.
Well, here we go. Oh, I just put Darren Seals got bullets, Patrice Cullors got mansions. It's either 5 or 8. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of those 2. I mean, 5 is still a whole lot.
Oh, well, I was going to say it's too many, but okay.
Yeah, she's got, and I'm upset that no one's pulled up on her, but Candace Owens.
I'm sorry, say what'd you say about Candace?
She pulled up on Patrice.
Candace.
At one of her mansions. Candace Owens.
Wow.
Yes. She's the only one.
Over here looking. I had audio from Ferguson back in the day, but now that's
there's something on SoundCloud. I think the interview that you and I did way back when. It's on SoundCloud.
See, I gotta go dig that up. Talking about archiving, gotta archive my own stuff. Listen, big girl, I'm not gonna keep you much longer. I didn't see any more questions.
Okay.
I got one question. I don't. This is like obvious, but all right. How do you feel about the use of black faces in high places? I'm not even sure why we're talking.
To be skeptical of Black places and high places, they're not our friends. They are put in position, they're like Black overseers. It's not to say that they can't be used to our advantage. It just depends on, pressure applied, but we have to go into everything just being suspect, for real. It's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but that's pretty much how we're going to have to be, and it's sad because that applies to each other. Everybody is carrying so much baggage, and I don't hold it against people for what they didn't know back when, because there's no manual for this, like for real. You just find yourself in the situation, and you just react, you respond. For example, Mike Brown Sr., he never asked for any of this, but he stood up, in ways that, he really like put this movement on his back. I'm talking about as far as Ferguson goes, and he had his trust, he put his trust in people that took advantage. You know what I'm saying? But he's still out here. That is one person I can definitely say is still out here. Okay. And he even, I saw a commercial. He even did a commercial for Cori Bush. I don't know what happens next for Cori Bush. There really isn't a movement to come back to. Like, it's just fractured. Everybody is like freestyling, doing their own things. And, if you were to go on West Florissant right now, you would never know any of this ever happened. There are people at Mike Brown's high school who have no idea who he is.
10 years. That's all it took.
Yeah, that's all it took. Yeah. That's why I'm telling you, like, when it happens again,
B girl, let folks know how they can follow you, keep up with what you're doing.
They can follow me at, I'm about to activate bgirlforlife.com. It's BGYRL, 4 LIFE.com. They can look for me on Facebook, the same, B Girl for Life, or BGYRL and then FORLIFE. Either one of those, I'll pop right up. But what I would like people to do instead really is Alt Black News. Check it out, ALTBLACKNEWS.com. It was like, you got the alt left and the alt right. We're the alt black. And I invite people to contribute, because I import, not import, what word should I, that's a technical term. I curate content, from everywhere. I think over there it's mostly, it might be podcasts and YouTube videos. And then you can look for Alt Black News pretty much everywhere. And I post different things in different places. On X, I would totally suggest people get on X, because right now X is on fire. Everything is coming out. It's hard to even keep up, because things are just happening and being exposed in real time. And a lot of times I don't have time to come back, to Facebook or to Alt Black News or to wherever, because things they're just happening. Yeah, always 24/7.
I see you live streaming right now, Rootwork.
Yes.
All right. So,
you're right. Yes, that's Alt Black News.
AltBlackNews.com and HandsUpDon'tShoot.com.
Yeah, but check out the Alt Black News, HandsUpDon'tShoot.com. I'm gonna be updating that, changing the format somewhat, just within the next month. But if people would bookmark it, I would appreciate it.
All righty. All right. Well, I'm not going to hold you any longer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
On the show. I appreciate you, even though I haven't been in touch like I'm supposed to.
That's okay. When I come out there, you owe me fish dinner. Don't forget.
I'll use some fish and shrimp. I got the spot for you too.
Okay. That'll work. Right. That's what's in. All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. All right. You take care.
You too.
Stay safe.
You too.
Yes, absolutely. All right. All right, y'all. You got the information. Be Girl for Life. BGYRL for the number 4 life. That's going to be coming on soon. altblacknews.com, altblacknews.com, and handsupdon'tshoot.com. She says she's going to rework it, but at the moment it is still a vital resource archive documenting Ferguson 10 years ago. So that is all I have got for y'all right now, today, tonight. I appreciate y'all staying up late with me, late for y'all on the East Coast. But again, wanted to try and say something regarding the murder of Mike Brown and what it jumped off in Ferguson 10 years ago, in addition to so much else going on during Black August. So appreciate y'all for hanging with me. Might not see y'all next Thursday, but you definitely gonna hear from me again before August is over with. So again, I implore you, like, subscribe, and share, not just for my show, but for all of the offerings here on Black Liberation Media. Thank you again so much. Y'all stay safe out there. Peace.